How big a role will social media play in the Lok Sabha elections? The importance of social media politically can be gauged by the fact that the Election Commission has, this time round, issued guidelines for how political parties use social media. Social media giants are under intense pressure to ensure their platforms are not used to spread fake news and influence voters. In fact, today the Election Commission met with India heads of prominent social media sites like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram to ensure that their platforms don't give an advantage to any party. But can these strictures work? And how much of an impact will social media actually have on the elections? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Jency Jacob, Managing Editor at Boom Live, and political analyst RADHIKA RAMASESHAN. Welcome to both of you and thank you for speaking with us on Primetime Debate. Jency, since you deal in busting fake news day in and day out, tell us how much of it will actually, or do you think actually impacts voters?
Well, if you're asking me if social media is going to impact voters and whether we are going to see a large part of this election being played on social media, yes, there will be an influence. We cannot deny that fact. But this is also a country which is going to have, over 900 million voters. A large portion of them will not be on social media. But as far as perception is concerned, a large portion of this perception is also created in how the narratives are built politically, how political parties project each of their leaders. And a lot of this is actually playing out on social media. And while we are discussing this right just 15-20 days before the first phase of the polls begin, but political parties have invested a lot of time in this process. BJP, as we know, has been in this since 2009-2010 onwards, while we may say that Congress actually could only get into the game just last year when there was a resurgence as far as their social media strategy is concerned. But yes, there is a reason to believe that the Election Commission has reasons to worry about how this social media play is going to influence and whether that would result in free and fair election campaigns or not, or whether it will give a level playing field for every political party and every candidate, as it should in a thriving democracy. And that's where all the strictures that they have come out with. But sometimes, Tamanna, I do really believe that, or I rather wonder that is this coming too late? Because they had a lot of time before this. Why have they come up with the strategy just into this election right now?
No, so efficacy of the EC strictures is one part of it. How much can you hold back on social media is another part. But I want to take off from something Jency said, that there are 900 million voters. How many of them are actually going to be influenced by social media? Because that's the key point, isn't it? So some data here. Facebook has 300 million active users in India. WhatsApp has 200 million. Twitter, which for some reason is the most influential, has just 35 million. But Harish Bijur, the question is about how deep the impact is. Why do we all, and I think all of us have faced it in the last few years, have some relative, distant friend, old colleague who will quote something to you which makes no sense, but then say, hey, I got it on a WhatsApp forward. And that really is the question, isn't it? That over time, how this messaging can influence voters. Do you think that it's being overhyped, the impact of social media, or will it have a definitive impact?
Well, I would put it this way, that, there are three kinds of mediums in this country. One is real media, which actually touches real people. And then there's virtual media, which really touches virtual people. I'm being facetious in saying that, but there's a third medium which touches both segments. And the important thing is, when you look at social media, you look at social and digital. And in digital, WhatsApp is that one instrument which touches the largest numbers of people in this country. If there are 900 million voters in this country, the penetration of mobile phones and WhatsApp itself touches a very deep 900 million of them. You can be sure about that. So it's to say that what kind of an impact will it have? Not too deep as far as I'm concerned. Social media and digital is great to percolate messaging, to percolate good messaging, bad messaging, and to allow the decision making with the voter. But the real stuff that touches voters is grassroots stuff. And I think the grassroots audience is really a size of about 750 million voters. And the 150 million voters which are outside of grassroots voters are the virtual media voters. So social media, it's stylish, it's something great, it makes a lot of noise, but impact-wise, I think not that much.
Radhika, how do you weigh in on this debate? Because 2014 was perhaps the first big social media campaign that we saw. And the BJP was streets ahead, like Jansi mentioned, in that dominion. Today, you have heads of state, you have key political parties making announcements on a platform like Twitter. You have this whole Main Bhi Chaukidar campaign that we've seen started from the Prime Minister's office over the last few days, and it's all on Twitter. Do all of these things have a trickle-down effect? And if it doesn't matter, why so much focus on it?
Absolutely. Every party has an IT, a digital cell. And I think the use of social media was started very seriously by Mr. Narendra Modi when he was the Gujarat Chief Minister. He managed to test its efficacy on the ground, and thereafter he used it big time in the 2014 elections, even before that. Having said that, I have to say that the rural penetration of social media is enormous. In 2013, I went on a tour of Uttar Pradesh after attending Modi's first rally in Kanpur, and I was surprised that to find a record number of users in Amethi. They were all connected on WhatsApp, they were connected on Facebook, on Twitter to a smaller extent, and most of them had watched Mr. Modi's Kanpur rally on social media, and they knew exactly what he said, how he said it. And in a sense, I would say that Mr. Modi's social media campaign was kick-started from that point. It's a force multiplier, there is no doubt about it, and there's no point making these distinctions between urban, semi-urban and rural. It is an all-encompassing medium. It touches everybody, because if you look at the number, anyone who has a mobile phone is bound to have a net connection, is bound to have WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever connectivity on his or her cell phone. So there you are, the access is enormous, and it's not just a few politicians. Across the board, every small party is on social media.
Yeah.
Every leader, most politicians are on social media, and they communicate. In the good old days, you had these parchis which were dropped all over the place when political parties had to campaign. Social media, I would imagine, has taken the place of the old parchi. Of course, I mean, the other panelist was right. It can't be the only medium. You have to, it has to complement grassroots work, which is the real hard work, organizing, booth committees, and so on. And of course, you have public meetings, which I would imagine are the most effective mode of communication, even in this day of digitization and social media. But certainly social media has become a very vital component of campaigning, and no politician, no party can afford to ignore it anymore.
Let's take a look at the social media guidelines that, and this is a participative debate. If anyone has a point, please indicate and you can come in. But let's just take a look at the Election Commission guidelines on social media this time. Candidates will be filing affidavits with information about their social media accounts. They must apply for pre-certification for political advertisements. Social media spends will be in the overall expenses of political parties. Model code of conduct will apply to posts on social media. Jansi, how workable do you think this is? And I spoke about the Main Bhi Chaukidar campaign, and it came after the dates were announced, and it's in that grey area, isn't it? It seems like a political campaign.
Yes, Tamanna, and all these things that are being mentioned about how the handles and the Facebook pages will have to be pre-certified and pre-declared when a candidate is filing his or her nomination. While this all looks very good in theory, which is why I said that I'm extremely skeptical right at the beginning about all these things being announced, just 15 days before the onset of the biggest election that this country is going to see, this year. And when you do that, we are really not sure whether the Election Commission has all its questions answered or not. Let me give you one example. Suppose if I am fighting this election and I am asked to surrender or to declare all my handles and my Facebook pages. What stops me from creating a few dummy pages which I would say that those are my verified accounts, and then ask all my supporters to go ahead and post whatever they want, even post the 48-hour deadlines begins. What stops me from doing that? And that's exactly what all politicians and political parties are going to do. And how is the Election Commission going to stop this? In fact, I had asked this question to one of the Election Commission officials, and they did say that this is a big gray area. Yeah. And for them, it's very difficult to really monitor everything that is going to happen on social media. But yes, they said that they at least wanted to make a start. Now, why was the start not done when there were about 7 to 8 state elections last year? Even that could have been a perfect time to do pilot projects.
Even if they did it for 5 years, has anyone in the world been effectively successful in moderating social media? It's almost like trying to stop a flood of water with your bare hands. I mean, how are you going to stop people from expressing their opinion beyond a point? There can be 100,000 ways of pushing for one particular party or one particular type of leader. Is it really even feasible? Should the EC even have tried to wade into this area?
Yes, so I guess what the EC is not worried about the fact that when people have an opinion, people can have.
Yeah, Jency.
Yeah, no, so people can have an opinion for a political party or another. That's not what the EC is worried about. What the EC is worried about, and I was part of one of the consultative committee for one of the state election bodies, and what I understood from them is that they are extremely worried about the fake posts and the fake images and the videos that are being used to actually build a narrative around a certain candidate or around a certain political party. And while yes, they have their heart in the right place, what I think they're trying to do is they're trying to make the candidates accountable, which was not possible till now because there were no regulations till now. They're trying to make them accountable for everything that goes out in their name. And one attempt that they did say that they're trying to make is the fact that they're going to monitor all those individuals and pages and posts who are going to post even after the 48-hour deadline begins. And if they find anyone violating that, they are actually going to add the expense to the candidate's account. Now, that's the way that they are figuring how to do this. But yes, again, I'm not sure whether that is going to be really effective.
You're talking about expenses to candidate account, and we got data which was put out of just 1 week. That is the week from 10th of March to 16th of March. Only for Facebook, ads related to BJP were 4,825, and they spent about 43 lakhs on it. The YSRCP was the second with 180 ads, then the BJD with 125 ads, and then the Congress with 19 ads, and the least spends actually at 87,000 rupees only on Facebook ads. Harish Bijur, how big a part of, because the media planning space, how big a part of the plan will these kind of ads and outreach be for political parties? And forget about how much they declare and don't declare. How much of an impact do you think it makes? And does this kind of data also tell you who's ahead in this race?
Well, what will really happen is the government that rules at a particular point of time is the one which is going to spend the largest amount of money. And I think that's exactly what is panning out. And then there are political parties which seem to believe a little more in social media rather than less. And I think those are the parties which are actually spending more money. So it could be a party which is advised by someone who believes in social media deeply, like the YSR party, if you look at it. So the BJP will be the biggest spender for sure, and everyone else will be a subset of that spending. But it's not really the spending, it's the multiplier effect that social media across the types of vehicles that you're talking about will give you. Because we're talking about 23 dominant social media vehicles, which include digital, which is actually going to create this aura for the party, the brand, the individual that we are talking about. But at the end of the day, I still believe that this is going to be umbrella stuff. This is umbrella stuff which is going to give you that aura. It is a basic hygiene point for most people to have a social media presence. So if you have to be on social media. If you're not on social media, if you're not social, you're anti-social. And I think that is not appreciated by a lot of the young audience in the country. The young quotient of voters in this country is deep and large. And I think that is also going to be impacting. But all I'm saying is, hey, listen, guys, social media is the image creation media. The actual vote creation is a completely different task. So sometimes it's good not to get too excited and say that social media is it. Social media is creating those images. Yes, about 800 million people are going to be reached out through WhatsApp. That's going to be the deepest. Facebook is going to be a subset of that. Twitter is going to be a smaller subset of that. So some are going to create images, some are going to create real grassroots action of the vote. At the end of the day, what cascades in those last few days before voting, through social media as well, is going to have the real impact.
So let's do a quick comparison of the two primary parties, the ruling party and of course the opposition party, the Congress. And Radhika, RAMASESHAN, let me come to you for this. So we know, and you said as well, that the BJP is ahead of the game. They're spending more. The Congress seems to have picked up some steam over the last year or so. Do you think that their differences in approach and presence on WhatsApp groups and within communities is going to be key? How do you compare the two right now?
Well, I don't see much of a difference in their approach or use. Definitely the Congress is a Johnny-come-lately to social media. I mean, a party like the Samajwadi Party was ahead of the Congress. Akhilesh Yadav is himself personally tech-savvy, and he used it in the Uttar Pradesh elections. So therefore, I have been watching the Congress on social media, and of course, I mean, one has no choice but to watch the BJP because it's so in your face. I mean, there isn't too much difference. It's about image building, as the panelists said. Definitely, one is building the images of Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi. The other one is, of course, focused on Modi with the new slogan about "Main bhi chaukidar hoon." And then you have Priyanka's boat journey yesterday on the Ganga through Uttar Pradesh. You had videos playing out in a loop, all day on social media. So therefore, I fundamentally don't find too much difference in their approach, except certain parties, certain leaders, and I do not want to take names over here, tend to vilify, tend to get abusive, and that, in my opinion, is what the Election Commission must monitor. Forget about social media spend, etc. It borders on the libelious. It goes beyond the libelious, because it is a generator of fake news, and I mean, it's a no holds barred kind of thing. Anything is fair game, and that is where the EC must step in and regulate the content of social media and the kind of things that are being put out and are being said. Yeah. Because what happens is that because it's a force multiplier, it goes viral, and there are like enough and more recipients.
True, but isn't that a slippery slope? Isn't that a slippery slope? Because content regulation on social media by itself is, this big quagmire, and then is the EC the right, entity to do that? Where do you draw the line? Facebook and Twitter and platforms like that haven't got it right. Conduct,
so that's the touchstone.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about censorship at all. There is a model code of conduct, and you can show that should be the touchstone to judge if what is being said does cross the Lakshman Rekha, so to speak. I mean, look, speeches are monitored all the time. Speeches that politicians make from the stump. I mean, recently there was somebody who called Rahul names, there was somebody who called Priyanka names, and those sort of speeches, those sort of remarks, those sort of statements would come within the purview of the model code of conduct, because they do breach lines of propriety. So I was talking about something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't let yourself go and call your adversary, say whatever you want, fake or real or whatever. I mean, what if somebody calls his opponent a rapist, you know, whereas, I mean, there is nothing true. It's a completely trumped up kind of a charge. What do you do in that kind of a case? A mere tweet is enough to make this kind of thing grow viral. So what does the Election Commission do in that case?
Okay,
there has to be some
Harish
kind of
Bijur wants to come in.
You know?
Yes, Harish Bijur wants to come in with a point on this. Yes.
You know, I want to make a point in conjunction to this because, you know, social media is good and social media is bad, like every media is good and bad. Essentially, we need to appreciate that there are two kinds of mediums, and one, which is the old one, you know, television, print and radio, is reasonably a curated medium. It is curated with an editorship, with a philosophy, with a policy of broadcast. Whereas, you know, and is answerable to that policy of broadcast, that philosophy and that curation that the editor gives. And there is a person responsible for a particular breach, and that's normally one individual within that broadcast organization. You don't find that typically in social media. Social media, to that extent, is an uncurated medium. Every Tom, Dick and Harish can actually publish. And to that extent, what really happens is an uncurated medium becomes a kind of an anarchy. And that is the beauty of social media, and that is the disaster of social media. Both. Fundamentally because you can say anything you want, and one can get away with murder for a long period of time at times. So I think, you know, what's really going to happen is, yes, social media is going to be the snazzy media, which is actually going to create all the noise. Insta is going to do 20 different things. Twitter is going to be doing a minute by minute, second by second thing, and WhatsApp is going to come into your face. But as a consumer, as a voter, you're going to look at it differently, because in the voter's mind, there is a reliable medium and there is an unreliable medium. Sadly, I can't tell you which part of the voter believes that what is reliable and what is unreliable, but gradually social media is assuming a kind of a feel to say that anything that's uncurated is not all that reliable. Maybe I need to take that messaging with a pinch of salt, if not a dollop of salt, if not a truckload of salt. So I think, you know, this is going to happen. But I think at this point of time, I think the verdict is reasonably mixed.
Okay,
curated
so this is
versus uncurated.
But this is where, you know, Jansi, this is where your view is very important. What about unreliable information masquerading as reliable information? And I'm of course talking about fake news, old clips being pushed as new. Now you have the kind of posts and videos which look like they're off a TV screen. The layout is like it's you know, a newspaper piece. What do you do then? Can you really expect the average voter to rack their brains and make sure that they're, you know, consuming the right stuff and forwarding the right stuff?
Yeah, Tamanna, in India, what has happened is digital literacy has come later on. Before that, there has been a data explosion, and there has been an explosion in the avenues that are available for people to buy smartphones and to buy and to be part of the app network that you're seeing and the messaging systems that we are seeing without being ever trained on how you can responsibly use these kind of mediums, which is where a lot of us are actually also involved in trainings where we are reaching out to schools, colleges, and also to you know, several you know, cities and rural areas, where we are taking our learnings, what we've learned over the last 2 years, looking at social media posts. You know, one should not be surprised when I say this, that it's not actually people who are illiterate who are readily believing many of these posts. It's people like you and me who are out there on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and WhatsApp, who can read, who can write, who have the you know, who probably had the privilege of going to good schools and educational system, that we just believe whatever we receive on our you know, on our gadgets. And you know, what we tell people, I mean, here's a tip that I would often and I often offer many of my listeners, that whenever you get anything on WhatsApp, the one simple measure that you can use is, please pick up the text, cut, copy, paste it either on Google search or on your Facebook search bar, and see the number of people sharing it. You know, when you do that, you get to understand how viral it is. And when you understand that, you know, common sense does suggest that this cannot be true, don't share it, don't forward it. You know how difficult it is to do that, and sometimes I really wonder at the kind of videos and images people forward on Facebook. And I sometimes, I ask them and I said, why do you do this? What's wrong in it? I just shared it with a friend of mine. But what we don't realize is that the moment you share it, it goes viral, because it's an exponential increase in the number of people who are going to get it. Multiple number of times it is shared, which is why I feel that what Facebook did, WhatsApp did in limiting the number of forwards. Yes, for political parties who want to create a narrative, they can do multiple ways to beat that system. But for people like you and me, we don't need to forward it more than 5 people. I think that is, that's at least something that they did better than most of the other measures they have taken.
No, so obviously the onus can't only be on the Facebook and the WhatsApps and the Twitters of the world. It has to be on people and parties as well. But let's come back and wrap the show with the key question that we're asking: is this going to be a social media election? Are social media campaigns going to perhaps trump real issues, ground campaigns, door-to-door, campaigning, political rallies? The verdict is mixed on this panel. Social media will have its place, but it can't quite replace the real thing. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the show today, and thank you to all of you for watching.